Hello, welcome back to the channel. Uncle Cthulhu here. So, today's video is about dealing with big wargaming projects, or how do you eat elephant? Because the answer is one bite at a time. But what does that actually look like? What does it actually feel like? And so actually some tips from me. Now, everybody is going to be different. And part of this video is about encouraging people to maybe try something different, find something that works for them. I see a lot of people asking for help and tips on Facebook, and the answers coming back are always very specific to that person. You might find the answer that works for you, but actually just thinking about what you want, what motivates you, and what helps you. In front of you, you can see my Confederates I've got built so far from the Epic Battle system. You might see my Union Army the other week from a 100th video about where that is. And actually, that's a good case in point about big wargaming projects. In the starter box, there's loads and loads and loads of miniatures. And actually, getting stuck into it and getting so far through it, I found myself wanting to explore other things. And that's my first lesson, is follow your hobby muse. Over the years, I've ploughed my way through loads of different wargaming projects. If you've seen some of the videos that I've done as well, I've done like 6mm Waterloo, every brigade represented from the campaign from all three sides. I've got 6mm Ancients, tons of Flames of War, but action armies. And one thing that's got me through it is wanting to do it, following my muse. And if that means taking a break and doing something different, I will. So I got this far through my Confederate army, and I just felt I wanted a break from it for a while, so I picked up some Ancients, as you've seen, my Celts, and I've been painting those Celts, knowing that in May, the second wave will be coming out and the Zouaves will come out. So as the Zouaves come out, my interest, because I'm definitely going to pick up a box of Zouaves, my interest in the project will reignite, and I'll start doing it again. And not feel guilty about that. Have a few different projects on the back burner. If you feel like you want to do something different, do it. I always come back to my projects. So it's very rare I'll finish an army or two armies in a sitting. And for me, I'm either a solo war gamer or put on games down in my house for my friends. That means that I will do both sides in a conflict. And generally, I feel about a month and a half of one project, I'll get an itch to start doing another one. I'll start thinking about my next project. And I'm quite happy for that rotation to go through. So the other thing I have on my paint station is I'll often have a couple of characters or units from something else. So if I do want a break from something, I'll pick it up and have a go. So whilst I've been painting my Celts, and here's some examples. There's the Archer unit I'm working on at the moment. So these are base coated and shaded. Start to do a bit of highlight work on the skin. There's another unit that I've started base coating before shading. So whilst I've been working through my Celts, I haven't forgotten my American Civil War. So I've had some frames of these fellas out, which I've been working on as well. So often I'll find, say I'm picking up a colour, if the colour's on something else and I just fancy painting something different, I'll throw a few spots of colour on something. Other things I've got going on at the moment, you might have seen some more role-playing videos. I do like my vampires, so I have, it's called the Crimson Court from Warhammer. I've got some of those. Oh, you see the pack painted? I'll pick them up. I painted some Marines. I'm using the same colour green for my US Marines for action, so that's greens. And I've also got some French Napoleonics. We've been painted, these base coated and shaded as well. So I'm in no rush to get these finished. And when the days I just want to paint something different, I've got this ready to go on my paint station. So that's how I start looking at the painting. But it doesn't help with organising the big project you want to do. So what I'll do is set myself some goals or an endpoint. So for example, attending a tournament is easiest because it says by X date I need to have a fully painted army. What I'll generally do is I'll set myself by the end of summer this year I want to be able to recreate the Black Powder 2 rulebook Battle of Antietam using the Epic Battle System models. So I know there's a bit of pressure that I've set myself, and I'll work towards that, and it'll encourage me to get it done. The other thing you could do is break down a project. So for example, if you were doing I'll use points as an example, it's easiest to break down, or you could use a historical formation like a core. But if I'm using, say, 2,000 points, I might break it down into 500 point chunks, but each one themed around something. So I might break it down into 500 points, so I'm going to paint 500 points, and the first ones I'm going to do are going to be the units from the vanguard, so scouts or light cavalry. Then the next 2 blocks I'm going to do 500 points, I'm going to put my line stuff in there, and then my final stuff is going to be the guards, the elites of the army. Same if you did a corps, then I'm going to do 1 division, then I'm going to work for 1 division and 1 division, and it gives you things to aim towards. So when I'm starting to get serious about planning my Confederates for Antietam, and most of my Union stuff is done, I'll break it down into, cool, I am now painting McClaw's command from Longstreet's Corps, for example. Or with my ancients at the moment, and I'm painting my heavy Celts. This is my bodyguards command. I've just finished some legionaries. Next up, I'll be painting an auxiliary section. So I'll do the infantry, auxiliary infantry, cavalry, and archers all together, and that'll be like a nice contained project within a project. Yeah, and keep the remainder of the project out your mind. So at the moment, I've got 3 sprues of Epic Battles Warlord on my paint station, plus all the other wee bits I've showed you. I don't have 24 sprues sat there facing me. So when I'm painting, as you've probably seen, I kind of do batch painting. And I paint on strips. And what I'm doing is I'll paint the same colour in batches as I go along. With more uniform troops, that's dead easy. Less uniform troops, it means I'm also picking out colours and kind of randomising stuff as I go along. For 28mm, I'll paint 5 to 10 models at a time. 15mm maybe 20, 10mm normally 30 models. And this increases speed as you'll do one colour across all the models and then onto the next. So you're not having to pick up a model individually and work out your colours and paints and coming back to it. The other thing it does is train your hand to be used to the motions you need to paint those parts of that uniform as you go across the miniature. And of course, I give those examples of the amount of miniatures I'm painting, and that depends on the unit sizes for the game as well. You know, I said 10 men for 28mm. You know, if the unit's 8 or 12, that would be what I'm aiming for. The other thing about batch paint, as you've seen, pick these guys up, and I know they're base coated, they're shaded, and I've started the first work on the skin. So next time I pick them up, I know there's a point to start from. There's also an end point to get to. So for example, these guys could well have been, right, before I go to bed tonight, I want to get all the Wraithbone on the skin. And it gives me an end point to aim towards. And as you've seen, I've got several different batches on the go. Now for Epic Battles, these are the first ones I started painting on the sprue. And what I've decided, what I've found is the sprues are probably too big for me to paint. The 10 strips on the sprue, there's just too much there for my batch painting. Even following, you know, where I'm going to get to with the colours. I've been following my own rules with that to a point. What I'm much preferring is going back and painting via strips. What I'll do is just mount our base on a stand, do 6 of them at a time, so I've got a unit getting done at a time. And that's the thing as well. See how you're feeling. Like I say, painting all 10 miniatures on all 10 strips on the sprue, it was just starting to kill us. And I know, and that's the thing as well. See how you're feeling. Like I say, painting all 10 miniatures on all 10 strips on the sprue, it was just starting to kill us. And I know, and that's the thing as well. See how you're feeling. Like I say, painting all 10 miniatures on all 10 strips on the sprue, it was just starting to kill us. And the 5 or 6 for the regiments I found much more convenient, much more engaging with. Although it is meaning I'm doing the artillery as I go as well, so that could be an unexpected added bonus. The other thing I'm going to try and do when I'm planning a big project, and maybe this goes in how you break it down, is add some variety into my force. So for the American Civil War here, most of the uniforms will be the same. So talking about the Union, so 80% of my force is going to be the dark blue kepis, helm, hats. However, I'm going to throw in some zouaves just to break it up, and I'm going to paint some slightly different units. So I might throw in a unit of US Marines with white trousers, and you saw the sort of reds I threw in to be sort of the fire zouaves before. Like with my Confederates, for example, I've actually trimmed a unit, so they're all in kepi. So they'll be just a different unit to paint, and actually it's all grey with blue trousers. So I was thinking they could represent my Virginia Military Institute. I'll look at a few of the uniforms. I'll maybe throw in some Irish regiments as well with some greens, just to break it up and make it a wee bit more interesting for me to paint, rather than just hordes and hordes and hordes of the same miniature, which can become a bit tedious after a while. And yeah, an example like my Napoleonic armies I've done, my British armies will generally always have a Highlander unit, and my French have a Polish and Italian units, again, just to break up that uniformity of line. The other thing I'll do is use cavalry or tanks as a wee break from infantry. So I might say, right, I'm going to paint 4 units of infantry, then I'll do a unit of cavalry. Or I'm going to paint 2 squads of infantry, then I'm going to paint myself a tank. And again, breaking it up and rewarding yourself with it as well. I don't go so far as to plan things out exactly with spreadsheets. I am going to have a bit of a spreadsheet sorted out for these fellas, just so I can know exactly when to stop with my Antietam project. I do make notes in my notebooks. I'll go through loads and loads of notebooks. This one here is kind of wargaming notes and the kind of rough scripts I've been doing for these videos. Believe it or not, they are scripted. So yeah, that's how I go about sort of planning and basing my projects. What I have started doing, actually one final point which I find really useful, is I've started basing as I go. I find basing really tedious. So I was leaving armies to the end, and the armies would be done and the basing wouldn't be done. So what I'll probably do is one of my next jobs will be to get these fellas based up and ready to go. And it just takes the effort out of painting an army, then having to base it, basing as you go. But with that, make sure you have got your methodology and you've got all the materials you need. I know for my Napoleonic army, I created my own kind of sand, paint, filler mix. And I had to make some more up as I went along. And it was actually different between batches and the colours were off. So one of the things I am going to do, we're organising a big get-together and a 100-day battle this year over summer when we can with lockdown, is rebase my Napoleonic so it all looks the same again. And what I've gone back to doing is using sand and using 3 set colours on those bases every time, and that means I get the consistent results I want. And I always say I'm going to go back and put grass on. I very rarely do, but that's just me being a bit, I'll say lazy, bit distracted, shall we say. The other bit of advice is to pre-build or paint as you go at painting parts. Obviously for these fellas, you know, you don't need to assemble them, you know, but some miniatures, especially sort of like more science fiction and fantasy miniatures, you've got the option of painting them and sub-assemblies are assembling them. I generally will always assemble my models, then paint them, because I can always play games with unpainted models. I can't play games with parts of models. However, that's a choice for me that I've made. It sometimes makes getting in and painting a few things a bit more trickier than it is, but if gaming is my primary purpose, it allows me to game as I'm painting. I don't feel that painting then becomes a chore that I have to do before I start playing a game. And actually painting might not be your bag, so you might end up just using spray paints. You know, get some colours down simply on your army. You know, green for a British army, grey for a German army, sort of tan for a Soviet army, for example, to make it simple and easy. And that kind of works in the smaller scales, like the epic battle models that we're talking about here. You know, they come as blue and grey in the box, so with green bases. So technically, you can just get them thrown down on the table, and away you go, depending what your hobby preference is. And actually, that's another video I'll do, is understanding your hobby preference and what you can get out of your hobby once you understand what your hobby preference is. But anyway, that's enough of me talking just now. If you've got any great tips for how you manage big projects and get through eating an elephant, let me know, and I look forward to catching up with you again. That's bye for now.